Good morning, everyone. You're very welcome to this morning's webinar, Advancing Your Career Insights and Opportunities for Retirement Planning Advisors, Specialist Investment Advisors, and Certified Financial Planner Professionals. My name is Denise McLaughlin, and I work as part of the team in LIA. This is a 45-minute webinar delivered in collaboration with 360 Search, who are an industry-leading recruitment consultancy firm specializing in recruitment within the financial services industry. I'm delighted to be joined by two of their recruitment consultants today, Railes and Kate Corcoran. They will be bringing a wealth of knowledge and experience to this webinar. So whether you're advancing your finance career journey, seeking new opportunities, or maybe you're aiming for professional growth, then this webinar is definitely for you. Over the last couple of years, we've seen a huge demand for those looking to drive the standard of professional advice in Ireland by achieving advanced qualifications, including the Retirement Planning Advisor, Specialist Investment Advisor, and the Certified Financial Planner designations. There is now a need more than ever to ensure that your clients are getting the best possible advice so that they can navigate the world of financial planning with confidence. So for those that might be considering undertaking these qualifications, enrolment is now open for our Term 2 intake, which is commencing in February. More information will be provided after this webinar on that as well. During the webinar, if you have anything to ask myself, Holly, or Kate, please feel free to pop them into the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen there, and we'll take the time at the end to answer them. So now I'm just going to hand you over to Holly and Kate, and we'll be back at the end for the Q&A session. Thanks.
Amazing, Denise. Thank you so much for the introduction, and good morning, everyone. Me and Kate are absolutely thrilled to have the opportunity to talk to you today. We want to talk to you about our experiences and knowledge of the industry, but from a recruitment perspective. So I suppose in our day-to-day, we deal with candidates ranging from APA level all the way up to CFP level. And today we want to focus on a few insights, I suppose, and common questions from professionals who hold the SIA, RPA, or CFP. We're very aware that everyone on the webinar is probably at a different stage in their career, so there will be an opportunity to ask specific questions at the end. And as well, we'll share our contact details, so feel free to get in touch with myself or Kate separately with any of your own questions. So what we're going to cover off on today. First, we look at a few industry insights, then we'll go through I suppose different career paths relating to the RPA, SIA and CFP. We did a recent survey in which we got some really good insights. We're going to look at them with regards to the demand for CFP professionals. We'll go through some application and interview tips, and then finally just a little bit on professional growth. Okay, so firstly, I wanted to go through some industry insights, and the data that I've got here I actually pulled from LinkedIn. So it's a special license that we have on LinkedIn that enables us to get so much data off the back of it. So first I wanted to run a search, and within that search I used the keyword CFP or Certified Financial Planners, and I set the location to Ireland, and it gave me 1,189 results. And the results within that data set are either people who have the qualification already or they're progressing towards the qualification within Ireland. So of that data set, we could see that 121 of these individuals moved jobs within the last 12 months. And that's pretty standard. So we use that in comparison to what we would expect to be the norm within the industry. And that's quite in keeping with, I suppose, our expectations. Then we had a little look at medium tenure. So that will be the average amount of time that an individual is spending within that role, within this data set, and that is 2.2 years, which on the outset it seems quite low, but actually it doesn't necessarily mean that that person would have changed companies. You know, they may just have changed roles within a company. And what we can take from that is potentially the people who are CFPs or studying towards the CFP are getting more opportunities, whether that be within their current organisation or within new businesses. What was quite surprising was the gender diversity stat. I suppose from recruiting within the industry, we are aware that there's definitely an imbalance when it comes to gender diversity. But it was actually quite shocking to see how imbalanced it is. I think what we can take from that is, you know, any females who are on this call who are considering, you know, progressing within the industry, whether it be through the RPA, SIA or CFP, there's a demand for you within the industry, and we definitely see that through the conversations that we have with our hiring clients as well. So it should be an encouragement to any of the females out there as well. And then finally, hiring demand. This stat is actually based off, so the data set that we have there of the 1,189 individuals, how often they're actually being messaged on LinkedIn by recruiters. And the hiring demand there is deemed to be very high. So most likely, if you are one of those individuals, you're being contacted quite regularly on LinkedIn. You might be getting lots of messages with regards to various jobs and opportunities. And we can take that as a really positive, that there's plenty of hiring companies out there at the moment.
And Holly, just based on those industry insights, who would you think are the top employers that desire this qualification?
So I actually use that same data from LinkedIn, and it showed me the top 5 employers of that kind of CFP talent pool. Within Ireland, currently they are Bank of Ireland, AIB, Davy, Goodbody, and Irish Life. So probably not too surprising, anyone who's already operating in the industry, to hear that they're the top employers. However, that is definitely not an exhaustive list. Obviously, they're the bigger institutions within the country, but there's actually hundreds of other employers who are really interested in these CFP, or certified financial planner individuals.
And what are the factors you think influencing demand within the industry?
I think if we're looking at it, I suppose, as a wider industry, so life, pensions, financial planning as a whole, there's probably like 2 main factors that we see, Kate, isn't there? So one is probably around supply. And it's what we see quite regularly is that it's a maturing workforce, so a lot of the really experienced, knowledgeable, qualified individuals within organisations are starting to reach retirement age. And companies don't necessarily have the relevant talent to replace those individuals who are retiring and leaving the business. The reason being because for a number of years there was less and less people entering into the industry. So there's quite a big gap there when it comes to experienced, knowledgeable, qualified people. So that kind of is affecting the supply within the industry. And then on the other hand, we've got an increased demand. So I think the industry as a whole, definitely over the last, let's say, 5 years, has seen a really increased demand from consumers. So I think a lot more people are just really focused on their own personal finances and are really actively seeking financial services advice.
And then kind of looking at the different career paths within the industry. So the RPA, SIA, and CFP, they can significantly enhance your career prospects and really show your commitment to kind of moving forward within the industry and progressing. So the RPA is probably the most common next step after completing the QFA, and it just kind of builds on the foundation of what you learned majority in the pension model within the QFA. The main thing to think between the RPA, SIA, and the CFP is, well, more the RPA and SIA, they are kind of different directions. So the RPA is more your pension specialist side. So you're going into kind of whether it's group, corporate, or individual side. I would say employee benefits is over the last 2 years has greatly increased in demand. And the RPA just really shows that, you've got a really good technical understanding of the products, and whether you want to be in a client-facing role or go into an operation side, it shows you really understand the products that you're dealing with, understand the clients and what they require, understand even more into kind of the more complex side in tax, things like that. The SIA goes in a different direction, more in the investment. So whether you're going portfolio manager, wealth manager, investment consultant, it's really understanding the intricacies of the markets, and that you're really a trusted person to understand, highs and lows, and that someone can trust if if they see the news and markets are dipping, that they can talk to you and chat about, what's best, that they're not just making rash decisions and moving, that sort of thing. And then the CFP, that's probably the most highly recognized one in terms of It's actually recognised in 27 countries. It encompasses comprehensive financial planning and education, and includes like tax and estate planning, retirement planning, risk management, and it requires a postgraduate diploma. So this is definitely something, if you're going into the CFP, it probably wouldn't be required if you're more kind of group or corporate pensions consulting. It's definitely more on the individual side. It doesn't necessarily mean if you do a CFP, that you're just going to be in a client-facing role. A lot of the roles we work on, especially on power planners, they would like, if you haven't already done the CFP, that you'd be open to doing it. And the power planner is basically working on your pre and post consultation, as opposed to just say working through or processing applications, talking to life companies. You really understand the technical side of portfolios. Then the financial planning and the wealth manager, that's more the client-facing side.
Yeah, I think it's good for people to have an idea maybe where they want to take their career and what role they want to do, and then off the back of that decide what qualification or designation they're going to pursue.
Definitely.
And then realizing that you might be considering the CFP as well, but that's a big chunk to bite off. So maybe you might start with the RPA and you're taking a step in the right direction. It encompasses, it partly encompasses what the CFP is. You don't have to make the decision straight away if you're going to do the whole CFP or not.
Exactly.
And then out of the roles that you discussed there, Kate, would you say it's possible to obtain any of those roles without actually having the relevant designations or qualifications?
Yeah, it's definitely possible. It's obviously more favorable having the designations to back you up, but like we were kind of mentioning, if you're doing the RPA or the SIA and kind of decide to do the CFP, it really just depends what road you want to go down, because experience will hold weight as well. So if you want to go into employee benefits, maybe start in an operations role or a sales support role. If you want to be a financial planning consultant, going into a power planner function will show that you really understand kind of the technical side of a portfolio. So when you are choosing a job, whether it's on the individual or the corporate side, that will really kind of show, that if once you understand the products, that's kind of nearly half of it when you are moving into a consultant, that you're able to chat through a client about these different options rather than, and know the specifics of it.
Yeah, it doesn't simply come down to qualification. There's other factors that are involved. And then I know, like, a conversation that we'd have with candidates quite often, maybe people who are more so in a support role or an administrative role, who are looking to discuss maybe advisory positions or consultant positions. What they want to know is, are those advisory and consultant positions sales roles in essence?
I think the term sales is definitely something the industry is trying to take a step back from. So it's, very much advisor, consultant. But these, when you are in a client facing, generally you are an income generating role. So normally there will be a target on what you bring into the company, basically. So there is certain ones, like a client relationship manager would more deal with kind of existing and renewal clients, but generally, sales is definitely something that the word sales they're trying to step away from, but it's you will be required to kind of have a target on your head, and not necessarily different companies will have different expectations.
Yeah. I think that's where it's worthwhile speaking to the likes of you or myself, in relation to, okay, a pensions consultant role in one company might be a lot more sales or targeted than a pensions consultant in a different company. And that's where we can try and help and guide people who are looking for the next career step. Great. And then on the next slide, we're going to look at the demand for CFP professionals. And to do this, we're actually just diving into some survey results. So we completed a survey just a few weeks ago at the start of this year. We completed it with companies who are operating in the financial advisory and financial planning space within Ireland. And we had over 50 companies who responded to the survey. So it's just really interesting to get a few stats off the back of that. So the first question, is the CFP considered a desirable asset for hiring decisions within the financial planning team in your organisation. And over 60% answered yes for this. So that's really, really positive. It shows that the majority who answered really are placing value within with the CFP. And then we could delve into those answers a little bit more as well, because there was like a written section. And a lot of the answers there were suggesting that having a CFP actually carries a huge status within the industry. So really positive result there. Obviously that meant that about 40% answered no or maybe. And the reasons there is that not all firms see it as a necessary. So some firms would elect maybe experience as even more of an important factor when hiring than holding the CFP. And then the next, when asked, does holding the CFP positively influence internal opportunities within your organisation? So the results for this were a little bit lower, approximately 45% answered yes. When we delved into the answers there, the reason for that is actually because there's a lot of companies out there who set the CFP as their standard. So actually, they're not recruiting into their business or onto their team unless you have the CFP. So actually, when you join that company, holding the CFP doesn't differentiate you from any of your fellow employees. Do you know? So actually, when you're looking for then internal opportunities for progression within that organisation, and everyone else there also has the CFP, they have to take different factors into consideration. And then let's see the next one. Do your clients specifically look for the CFP when selecting a financial planner? I thought this was a really interesting question, because we definitely know from a professional standpoint, you know, the CFP, it does hold a lot of weight, and there's a lot of companies out there who are looking for it when they recruit. But actually, when a client comes to selecting their financial planner, the results were only 10% answered yes, clients would specifically look for the CFP. And what that suggests is that there's still probably a little bit of education to be done within the industry and by client companies themselves to educate the consumers on how important the CFP is and why it should be valued so much when they're choosing their financial planner themselves. And then finally, does your organisation see the CFP as a qualification that will grow in relevance or value in the financial services industry over the next 5 to 10 years? That was a really positive response. Over 70% answered yes. So if we compare that to the first question, is it a desirable asset? 60% answered yes. So even the companies who currently aren't placing it as a requirement or desirable for hiring at the moment, they still might be recognising the importance of it and how relevant it's going to become in the next 5 to 10 years. So I think anyone who is currently working towards it can take that as a really positive, that you're setting yourself apart from other people within the industry.
And then Holly, in your experience, is there a demand for CFP professionals?
From a recruitment perspective, definitely. Do you know, I think in the last couple of years, we've really seen a shift away from purely product selling roles. Like they still exist. I think there's always going to be a place for them within the industry, but there's definitely been a shift towards financial planning roles as opposed to just purely product selling. And as a result of that, the CFP is definitely more sought after by a lot of employers. And then also the SIA and the RPA, so having those designations, as much as it might not be a requirement for a hiring decision, it puts you in a really, really positive light. So if you're in comparison to someone who might have really similar experience, but you've got the SIA or you've got the RPA, it just goes to show to that employer that you've really committed to the industry, you've committed to your career and your own professional growth. But I think it is important to note that the demand for all of the above, RPA, SIA and CFP, it's not standalone, so it's not purely about having that qualification. And I think you touched on this earlier, Kate, it's about, they're going to take that into consideration along with what your experience is. So if you're looking to get started on any of those qualifications or designations, making sure that you're getting the relevant experience as well, whether that be in your current organisation or you have to go elsewhere to find it. It's pointless having the CFP if you don't have any industry experience to back it up. At the end of the day, you're still going to really struggle when it comes to recruitment, and finding the relevant job.
And, getting the RPA, SIA, CFP, it's, you're looking to enhance your career. So if it is a thing that you've, achieved one of these milestones and are looking for a new opportunity, it is important to take time and, before you start applying, to first of all think about why you're looking to leave your current position and what you want out your next role. Really realign this then with kind of your search. So take time, first of all, to tailor your CV. If it is like last Friday, for example, and you did achieve the RPA, SI, CFP, make sure to include that first of all in your CV. The next part is really if, for example, if you are in a target-driven role, making sure that you're including like whether it's percentage towards your how you hit your target, percentage towards your target, like how you got on last year. So really the highlighting in your CV and looking at the expectations of the job spec and how, they match up, because, they say that most hiring managers only take a couple of seconds to look at your CV. So it's really important to have, your relevant experience, your relevant education at the forefront. And, when you're going through your CV, just making sure that, it's a couple of bullet points, but it really emphasizes what the important parts of what the hiring manager is going to be looking for. There is a lot, like we mentioned earlier, financial planner opportunities, employee benefits opportunities, these different ones. So do keep track of the application so that if a hiring manager does call you, that you know which one it's for, which company it's for, and to show that you're keen on the company as well as the role itself. If you do send through an application, it can happen to everyone. Emails can be missed, so do send a follow-up email, say I'd love any feedback to see if the role is still open, these sorts of things. And if you are brought forward for an interview, before the interview, just send through looking forward to meeting you tomorrow. After the interview, really appreciate your time, looking forward to the feedback, even mentioning parts of the role that you liked, parts of the company that they spoke about that you liked. And it just kind of sets you apart from other people. A lot of people wouldn't think to do this, and it just kind of is building a rapport before even potentially moving into the company.
Yeah, it shows like your enthusiasm as well. Do you know, if you're sending like a tailored cover note and, along with the CV, or if you're following up, do you know, like leave relevant time in between. Don't be a hindrance or annoyance when following up, but give them relevant time to review the application, to give feedback after the interview, do you know, but like kind of, as you said, creating that rapport with them from the very get-go.
And sometimes these, like, they have to have a certain amount of people they're interviewing, or they it might be, different levels that they have to get sign off before. So it could take a couple of days before. So it's nice just to have that little reminder in being like, oh, I'm still keen, or I'm still interested.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then just before, if you are brought forward for an interview, there are different things that you need to think about. So first of all, when you are preparing, take down the job spec, look at your CV. Sometimes people might do your CV. It could take a couple of weeks, a couple of months before you're actually, moving forward with an interview, and look at what you've put in your CV. So if someone asks you a question, that you can, all right, this is that part of my CV, and that you know what to talk about. Look at the job spec and understand different expectations of the role. So, you may not have done that exact part of the position, but you may have transferable skills and be like, well, I've actually done something similar. So it just shows that you really are getting a good grasp of what's required. If you're working with a recruiter and do have the opportunity to do an interview prep, like myself and Holly would always offer a video call or in person to go through practice questions and really get, you put forward on the right foot, so that when you're going in, if you're talking about your previous experience or talking competency-based questions, you've been able to say it out loud. You're not just kind of rehearsing it in your head or rehearsing it in a mirror, however you'd prepared in the past.
Yeah.
With financial services as well, smart dress is a requirement, whether, the office is casual and your friend works there and they're wearing jeans, and especially say, for example, if you're going into a client-facing role, show up to impress. If you're going to be out meeting clients, they want to know that you're going to be well dressed, well put together, show up on time, because it is, you know, first impressions do really matter. And then this kind of part, in terms of having your own questions ready, people seem to kind of get a bit fussed about this. You know, how important is it? What if I don't have any questions? You know, first of all, with an interview, it's important to, as much as you want the job, but it's important to understand that, like, if, or the other way around, like, as in, if this company is a right fit for you, if this role is a right fit for you, you know, reading a job spec and actually having the interview, it could change things. So thinking about, like I mentioned earlier, why you are looking to move and what could that company offer to help improve those aspects. Asking about, you know, if there's, you know, do you meet up outside of work? Is there, you know, payday drinks or things like that? So it shows you're interested in being part of the company, rather just clocking in 9 to 5 and on your way. You know, asking about different ways. If it's a client-facing role, they do business development. You know, is there industry events that they attend as part of the company? So these different things will show your actual keenness on the company, and it's not just, you know, going for the interview for the sake of it because, you know, you want to see what the salary is.
Yeah, it's like we could sit here and give you some generic questions to ask at the end of an interview, but really it's the company's chance to find out, are you a good fit? But it's also your chance to find out, is the company and the role a good fit for you? Do you know, so actually thinking about questions that are going to give you the answer to that. Are they the right fit for you? Is the role the right fit for you? And thinking about the questions that you can ask to kind of gauge that information.
Yeah.
So I know you did touch on this then, Kate, but how would you advise is the best way to prepare for an interview, or how would you go about advising our candidates is the best way to prepare?
So first of all, like I said, make sure you're well aware of what your CV is, well aware of what's required on the job spec, understand or check where the location is, check if it's on Teams, you know, make sure you're clear about that. It's happened before. People, you know, are waiting for a Teams link, or they show up at something that's supposed to be a Teams link. So having
That was last week.
yes. And just know, like that, yes, having any updates that might be needed, complete. And then I think another like that, if you have practice questions, going through them, if you are going through a recruiter, you know, make sure you utilize anything that they have to offer, whether it's assistance on the interview questions. If you do offer an interview prep, take it, because saying it out loud really does make such a difference before. And it would help, even like if you're talking through your CV, we can help show like what the best way to talk about it is to make sure that it goes fluid. Then make sure, you know, you have your outfit prepared. Make sure if you are commuting, make sure that, you know, you're checking traffic before. These little things can send you, like if you're a couple of minutes late, it just can set it off to a bad start more for yourself in panic. Most people are understanding in that. And then having your questions prepared and making sure that, you know, you're using the likes of, you know, like LinkedIn, the company website, these sort of things that, you know, they might post about their Christmas party, they might post about events that are coming up, acquisitions that might have happened, or just insights that could really help move forward. And, you know, having this discussion will and being able to bring these up in an interview will show you really did your preparation and really like looked into it and are aware of why this company is suited for you.
Yeah, I think that doing your own research is really important. And obviously you touched on there, definitely one benefit of using a recruiter is, well, of using us. Don't know if all recruiters offer it, but, you know, interview preparation to make sure that you're feeling really confident going into that process. But what other benefits would you say there are of dealing with a recruiter, Kate?
Well, I'd say first of all, make sure it's an industry specific recruiter. Like every client, every role that we work on is in life, pensions, investments, mortgages. So we're well aware of kind of what clients are looking for, and get an understanding. Like we may have placed a number of people, we may know people on the team that you're looking to go into. And I'd say, like, for example, like a lot of the clients we work with, a lot of their question is around culture fit as well as getting an idea of experience. You spend so much time in work in the week, you want to make sure you like who you're working with and you'll understand like your career development aligns with them, where you want, you know, if your 5-year plan aligns with them. So that's one thing. I think make sure it's an industry specific recruiter
Yeah.
is definitely a step up. I think as well, then using the interview prep as mentioned before, and then even just for the process itself, like applying for a job, it can be stressful. You don't know, is the grass always greener? You don't know if it's going to be a mistake. You want to make sure it's a smooth transition. So we can have the difficult questions, you know, we can ask these things that you might not feel comfortable asking beforehand because you don't want to see as, you know, being a nuisance or whatever. So we can ask those difficult questions. We basically, when we send through your CV, we kind of put together a bio to make sure that, you know, before the client even sees your CV, they're interested in meeting you. And then all the kind of in-between stages like negotiations all go through us. So if it's something you don't feel that's a strength, that's what we're there for. So it's just to make sure that when you are looking to move roles, that it's as smooth as possible and less as least stressful.
Yeah, I'd say everyone who's on the call today, you know, is focused on their career in some way or another. Obviously, you're upskilling when it comes to qualifications, you know, and educating yourself, you know, with a view that you want to progress within your career, and it may be within your current organisation, it may be, you know, it may be elsewhere. But I think by chatting with a recruiter who knows the industry well, it might just be a conversation, you know, to give a little bit of advice. It might not even result in an application, and that's kind of a lot of the conversations that me and Kate have with people.
Yeah.
It might not be a new job comes out of it straight away, but we can just try and give a little bit of guidance and help if you're at that point in your career where you're not sure what the next step looks like, or
Yeah.
you know. Perfect. Okay. So then our final slide, so this just touches on professional growth. So how will obtaining the SIA, the RPA, or the CFP help you? There's actually a huge variety of reasons. These are just a handful. But firstly, it grows your knowledge, you know, so that allows you to become more confident with your role and what you're advising on, and being able to provide more trusted advice to your clients. It means that you're going to stand out from your colleagues and peers because you've got that additional designation to your name. So it's going to differentiate you from others within the industry. And as a result of the two above, then it's going to grow your career. So as we've already discussed plenty throughout this webinar, there is a growing demand there for individuals with the higher certifications. So having one of these underneath your belt, it's going to allow for you to progress in opportunities, whether that be internally or externally within the wider industry. And then how can you kind of develop your career within the industry? Like a few tips in terms of professional growth outside of qualifications. So a few things we noted. One is to set goals or milestones. And this just allows you to kind of, I suppose, to take action and to measure your success with regards to that action. Do you know, so an example of that might be you want to become knowledgeable in using a certain financial planning tool. You know, let's just say it's CashCalc or Voyant. Do you know, set that as your milestone. Say in 6 months, I want to have some hands-on experience, and go about and then set a way in which you're going to achieve that. You know, if you can do it within your current company, fantastic, but work towards achieving those goals and milestones, and then they're going to go hand in hand with the qualification that you've already achieved as well. CPD, it's essential. Attending your CPD seminars and webinars, and just really staying informed with regards to the industry and the news and what's happening. It's pointless getting your SIA, RPA, and CFP if you're not then interested in actually staying up to date within the industry, and kind of being one of the leaders in terms of like your knowledge within that space. Expanding your network, that's actually going to happen naturally if you do achieve the CFP. You know, you're going to become part of that small body of individuals within the industry, and there's so many resources out there for those people, and you know, peers that then you can deal with and chat to and kind of grow your knowledge from there. It might be through other industry events, And then also the likes of LinkedIn, you know, so actually engaging with peers on LinkedIn, and there's so much resource that goes out there. And then other additional resources, it might be the likes of podcasts, it might be industry related podcasts, it might be podcasts for people who are looking to move into management roles. Whatever your desire is, there's probably a podcast out there for it, you know, even if it is just kind of more so on the inspirational side, something that gets you out of bed in the morning and makes you want to go into work and do a really good job. Other resources might be the likes of newsletters. So I know we put out our life and pensions bi-weekly newsletter, which goes out on LinkedIn every 2 weeks. Do you know, there's so much out there, and combining them, some of them, into your day-to-day is definitely going to add to your professional growth.
Brilliant. And how would you suggest an individual would approach their employer about new opportunities?
So I think from mine and Kate's perspective, this is definitely a question that we like to ask candidates, like from our very first conversations. You know, if someone's applying for a new role or looking to leave a company, has, you know, that role or that opportunity doesn't exist in the business where you currently are. Do you know, so actually asking your employer is, does the progression like exist in your company? And it might be a case that it doesn't exist immediately, but once they're aware that you're looking for that progression, they can create something for you, and maybe it might exist in the future. And then how to go about asking, you know, if you're working in a busy environment, it might not be something that you want to just broach with your manager straight away. So actually using your one-to-ones or your review meetings, hopefully that's something that you have. Unfortunately, our managers aren't mind readers as well, you know, so they might not know that you're kind of actively seeking more responsibility or a different role. So you need to have that conversation with them. Definitely give some thought into what that progression is, what it is that you're looking for. Do you know, are you looking to move from an admin into an advisory role? Are you looking to move into more so a managerial role? Are you looking to sidestep from individual life and pensions into maybe corporate pensions? Whatever it is, give it a little bit of thought first, and then at least when you do have that conversation with your manager or your current employer, you know, you can give them a guide of what it is that you're looking for and what progression means specifically to you. And then getting involved in various projects, you know, it kind of goes without saying, but really raising your hand, getting noticed, getting involved in meetings, suggesting different ideas within the team and within the wider organisation. All of that type of stuff is not going to go unnoticed. And then finally, if you are in an organisation which is maybe big enough that it does have its own jobs boards, you know, you might have the opportunity to see new roles as they come on and actually apply internally as well.
Definitely. And we might be biased on this, but is it worth being on LinkedIn?
Yes, 100%. There's zero reason why not to be on LinkedIn. Do you know, even if it is a case that you're putting up with all the multiple messages of recruiters, do you know, if you're not there, then you won't be getting that at all. So I think some of the few reasons off the top of my head, you know, firstly, what we mentioned before, connecting with peers. Do you know, so connecting with all the other people who are working within your industry, people putting out such amazing content, whether it be videos, just sharing news articles, you know, so actually just having a little browse on LinkedIn on a daily or weekly basis, that's a resource of its own, because other people are sharing stuff within the industry that's going to add to your knowledge. Secondly, then it's a platform that you can create your own personal brand. And that's going to help, if you're looking to develop a client bank, you know, developing your own personal brand and putting out your own content is going to really work towards that. It's also definitely going to help if it comes to time when you're looking to make a move. You know, and other people can see the great content that you're putting out on LinkedIn. And then finally, in terms of recruitment, it is a job search tool as well. You know, so you can go on. There's a lot of jobs that get advertised there. Once LinkedIn knows what you're interested in, it will suggest new jobs to you. And then it means that you're visible to recruiters, you know, so it's a tool that me and Kate would use a lot in terms of actually searching for people with relevant skills, relevant qualifications, relevant experience, to fill some really great jobs that we're hiring for. So yeah, I think there's no reason to not be set up on it at all.
Definitely. And even seeing if, you know, you are going to do the CFP, and like Holly mentioned earlier, there's over 1,000 people on LinkedIn that have it, and seeing what their career trajectory look like and how it matches to you, and different directions you can go, and where they've started and where they are now.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that brings us to the end of our slides. So we might just have a few more minutes if Denise wants to pop back in and see if we've got any questions that came through.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Holly and Kate. That was great. And there was loads of information there for those that joined us online today. It was great to hear about the opportunities available and the hiring demands for RPA and SIA and CFPs as well. Just before we get into the questions, if you do have any specific recruitment related questions, please do reach out to Holly or Kate. Their email addresses are just there on the screen, and they'll be able to help and support you on your recruitment journey. Also, if you do have any questions relating to the RPA, SIA, or CFP qualifications, you can reach out to the team in LAA at level9@laa.ie, and they would be more than happy to help and support you if you have any questions around the exams or even just where to start. We're currently enrolling for the term 2 intake of these qualifications, which is commencing in February. The deadline for accepting registrations is the 31st of January. So just having a look now through the questions, and we've got lots in, which is great. The first one there, someone's asking, I'll pass that to yourselves, Holly and Kate. You know, they're working towards the RPA, looking for progression, but they don't want a target-driven role. What are their options?
I'll start with that one, but you can chime in, I'm sure. Kate, I think we do see quite a lot of individuals who have the RPA, who might have the job title pension administrator. But actually I feel like the job title pension administrator can encompass so much, you know, so a pension administrator in one company might be very, very defined in terms of what they're doing on a day-to-day, do you know, and then they might be put off by applying for another pension administrator role, but actually a role with the same job title in a different company is going to give them a lot more exposure, do you know, to whether it be the product or the process. So I'd say firstly, don't be put off purely by job title. It might be a case that that person wants to consider opportunities with regards to progression, you know, it might be into team lead, managerial. So there's that route that they could look to take. And as well, I know Kate spoke about pension consultants or employee benefits consultant roles as well. There are consultant roles out there that are less sales or target driven, do you know, and would be more so relationship management. So although that person might not want to go into, you know, they might not want targets or sales, they still might be really happy and confident dealing with clients, do you know, so more of a relationship management role. But definitely if that person wants to get in touch, I think once we've got eyes on CV and can actually have a conversation with regards to what areas interest them and where they are seeking that progression, there's lots of different avenues that we could look at.
Great, thanks. And just another one there for yourselves. Are there many opportunities for CFP individuals on a fully remote basis?
I would say probably less than previously, but you know, flexibility is there with most companies. I think it can be kind of on an individual basis. I think especially if you are going into a target-driven role, the kind of once they see that, you know, you're able to achieve the targets working hybrid, they are open to the flexibility. And like I said earlier, if you've kind of built a name for yourself, like if you're on LinkedIn and you're known, and they will kind of give you that opportunity more, I would say. But a lot of them are hybrid, and especially people who are kind of, you know, have that CFP, and, you know, if you are dealing with especially like high net worth clients, they tend to want more face-to-face consultations. They want your time because of especially the amount of money that they're looking to put through and invest with you. It's there has to be flexibility there, I would say.
Yeah, it does really vary, doesn't it? Like we do have fully remote positions available for CFP, but it's naturally just much less than we do hybrid. And the reason being that, yeah, people still want face-to-face. Not everyone wants just a video call. So it just depends on the client who's hiring, and it depends on the client base that they have, do you know, and kind of where the client base might be located. But
Definitely, because it could be
yeah,
a case you're out and about all day and they're not going to expect you in the office if you've been, you know, you're doing different presentations or doing different things. So there definitely is flexibility there, but you know, it really depends on the client.
yeah, a blended week is more the norm.
Yeah.
But we do have roles like all across Ireland at the moment, to be fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. And just another one there, Holly and Kate, what are the prospects for someone switching careers and doing the CFP without relevant experience?
I think that definitely makes it a little bit trickier. Do you know, I'm sure there is going to be transferable skills, but it's one of those, despite the hiring demand being, there is a lot of hiring demand within the industry. But clients, or companies, should I say, hiring companies, they're still very specific on what they're looking for. So their expectations are still quite high. So it might be a case that, you know, although you've got the qualification, you actually don't have the hands-on experience of meeting with a client and giving that financial advice and going through the whole process with a client. And that's something that still needs to be learned and developed to go alongside, obviously, the qualification and the knowledge that you have. So I think so long as you can be open when it comes to what role it is that you'd be doing, and realize that initially you might have to go into some type of a support role so you can shadow someone and like really, you know, learn the ropes of doing that position, then that's okay. But generally, you know, before someone takes on that qualification, I would say try to get a foot in the door within the industry, you know, and grow them both at the same time in an ideal world.
Yeah, like a lot of clients that we work with, like, provide education support if you are looking to do it as well. So it's not a bad idea to try get your foot in the door that way. And sometimes it can look, if you've, you know, been in another industry but done the CFP, it might feel like you're taking a couple steps back, but within 5 years, it could be a tremendous trajectory from there. So it's kind of taking the risk at the start to see the reward later on, because you can move up quickly and you can get the hang of it quickly and, you know, build clients and build, you know, rapport very quickly within a company. But it's taking that kind of step back at the front. You have to nearly be able to accept first of all.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, no, so I think we've gotten through most of the questions there now. But if you did have any other questions about anything that was discussed today, please do reach out to us in LAA or to Holly and Kate. So yeah, just to wrap up, I'd like to thank you all again for joining us this morning. I hope you found the webinar beneficial and enjoyable. And thanks again to Holly and Kate, our speakers today, for your really brilliant insights. And just a reminder that we will be contacting everyone after this event with a copy of the recording. So if you have any questions, please do reach out to us. And I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much, guys.